My Arizona Adventure by Miles Dollar. I went to Arizona. I went on a plane. The airport smells good. I see all the planes. It makes me excited. Arizona is hot. It is dry and orange like Mars. I stayed at a hotel. I like to explore the hotel and go to the pool. I take pictures and go on hikes. Arizona looks beautiful. I see a cactus and red rocks. I like to travel. The Very Fun Soccer Game by Evelyn Pubbin. One day, my family and I went camping up north. When we were camping, we wanted to play a game of soccer, boys against girls. When we were playing soccer, a bear came out of the woods. He stole the ball from me. The bear took the ball and gave it to his 4 bear friends. We did not know how we were going to get the ball back. My mom and dad snuck up behind the bear and took the ball back. The bears looked sad. My mom and I asked the bears to play soccer with us. They ran around and had so much fun. Frank's Lucky Day by Leroy Leidstikow. Once upon a time, there lived a fox named Frank. He lived in the woods near a lake. The lake was big and blue, with lots of yummy fish swimming around. Early in the morning, Frank hopped on his boat to catch some fish for breakfast. He brought his fishing pole, tackle box, worms, and snacks. Frank went to his favorite fishing spot. He grabbed his container of worms to bait his hook, but the container was empty. Frank was mad. He didn't want to drive back. So Frank grabbed his bag of snacks, carrots, marshmallows, and chicken nuggets. He picked a marshmallow to put on his hook and hoped for the best. On his first cast, Frank hooked a giant muskie. Frank was very excited. Breakfast was served. The Scepter Adventure by Sonora Cindy Bunker. Once there was a queen cobra and her land was full of grass and leaves. She said to her guards, "Get me my scepter." The guards said, "You don't have one." She said, "Find me one by sundown." The guards named Stepia, Sonora, and Natalie went searching for the scepter. They searched and searched, but they just couldn't find one. They decided to make one instead. So they found a stick and some jewels and a leaf for the top. They just needed to find one last jewel to put on top of the leaf. But how? They decided to climb up the tree. Once they looked down, they felt dizzy. So they looked up and saw the most beautiful jewel of all. It was bright. It was yellow. It was the sun. Then something fell on Stepia's head. They put it on. It was almost nighttime. They slithered back to the castle, but it wasn't there. They searched and searched for the castle. They finally saw it. They went in. Right as they went in, the sun was going down. Sonora ran up and gave the queen cobra the scepter. The queen cobra said, "Now give me a crown." Sad Days by King Darius Brumfield. One rainy day, I was getting ready to go to a funeral with my family. Everyone got dressed. My mom was wearing a dress. It had purple and black on it. Dad was wearing black and blue. King and Kai were matching, both wearing a suit. Serenity was wearing a white dress. We drove kind of a short way and got to the funeral home, and we got out of the car. When we got close to Nanny's casket, my mom almost fainted. Then we sat down, and first people gave a speech. A man was talking, and one word he said was, "She is just sleeping." That made everyone a little less sad. The Horse Who Got Lost by Cash Tuig. Benji, the shiny brown horse with a white heart on his forehead, had been startled by a coyote. Benji broke through the fence. The anxious horse galloped through the deep, dark woods on a worn-down trail. To Benji's surprise, he came upon another horse ranch. Wow! So many different colored horses. All of them were so big. Benji got scared. Benji turned frantically to go back home. Oh no! The snow had blown over Benji's foot tracks. Benji did not know the way home. Benji heard his best friend Clover. Clover was a white and gray sheepdog that lived in the barn with Benji. Clover always watched over Benji. Benji was so relieved and happy to see Clover. Clover was there to lead him back home, back to Benji's happy place, his stall. Tell me, where is your happy place? Giant Joe by Laura Berg. Once upon a time, there was a giant named Giant Joe. Every time he walked through the streets, people laughed at him because he was so big. One day, the people in town were having a race. Giant Joe asked, "Can I play?" The people were mean to Giant Joe and told him he couldn't play. He was sad. He went into a barn and sat on a pile of hay. As Giant Joe sat there thinking, a frog hopped by his toes. The frog said, "You can't just sit there. You've got to help the people." Giant Joe was confused. Why would he help people who were mean to him? As Giant Joe thought this over, water splashed his toes. He looked outside. The land was flooded. There was water everywhere. No one could cross the river to get food from the garden. So Giant Joe gently picked up the people and held them in his giant-sized hand. He brought them across the river to get their food. Giant Joe helped the town in many ways. After a few days, the flood went away. Everyone cheered. The people had a giant-sized celebration to thank Giant Joe. He was a hero. They all lived happily ever after. 3 Explorers, Dave, and a Poisonous Snake by Brady Lucas. There were 3 explorers, 1 smart, 1 careful, 1 strong. They went to the Grand Canyon to take pictures. As they walked, the smart one pointed out dangers. They came across a poisonous plant called Dave. The careful one helped the 2 over Dave. They came across even more Dave. The strong one threw a rock and the plant fell. They shuffled along and finally they took a picture of a beautiful view of the Grand Canyon to show the world. They rushed back to their vehicle to get home, but their vehicle was being chewed by a poisonous snake who thought their vehicle was food. Oh no, how will we escape? No one will ever see our picture. Hey, let's work together like before, the strong one said. I will throw a boulder to scare the snake. The smart one said, I will keep track of where the snake moves. And the careful one said, I will make sure everyone is safe. They did it! The snakes slithered away. The next morning they got into their vehicle and drove back to show the world their picture. The end. My Special Friend by Samaya Burnett. One day at school, I saw a girl who I wanted to be friends with. After school, I went home to make her a special gift. Then the next day, I decided to introduce myself to her. I went up to her and asked her, "What's your name?" "My name is Eliza. What's yours?" "My name is Angelica." Angelica asked her, "Do you want to be friends?" Eliza said, "Yes." I handed her the special gift I made her. She opened it. It was a heart with wings, and in the center was a flower. "Thank you," Eliza said. "Let's go play." So they went to go play on the rock climbing wall and went down the slide together. They had lots of fun. Eliza was wondering why Angelica wanted to be her friend. Eliza said, "Can I ask you a question?" "Yes," Angelica said. "Why did you want to be my friend?" Angelica said, "Because my mom taught me a golden rule." "What is a golden rule?" Eliza said. "Treat others how you wanted to be treated." Eliza smiled. She knew she had found a very special friend. The Hunting and Fishing Book, a true story by James Neverowski. Hunting with Dad. Once my dad and I went out to hunt. It was the youth hunt. We went out in the morning. It was really quiet in the woods. We only saw a doe. I didn't shoot. In the afternoon, we were in a hut. At first, there were 2 does. Then came a buck. We didn't shoot. We had to be patient. Suddenly, along came a big 8-pointer. I was so nervous I was shaking. I lined up my sight. I took a shot, and I got it. Yay! Yay! My dad was very proud of me. Fishing with Dad and Grandpa. Once my dad and I went out fishing. We met my grandpa. He loves to fish. We put our lines in the water and waited patiently. We only caught 5 fish. So we moved to a new spot, and I caught 2 more fish. From then on, almost every time I put my pole in the water, I caught a fish. My grandpa caught 8 fish. My dad caught 12 fish, and I caught 38 fish altogether. It was a fun adventure and a fun day. The Case of the Missing Button by Charlotte Charlie Maurer. One day, Bear was on an adventure. He went to many cool places. He had so much fun. But then he got tired. He went to his favorite place to sleep, his bed. The next morning, Bear woke up and saw one of his buttons was gone. Oh no! Now Bear has to go looking for it. He went to the woods and met up with a black bear for help, but they could not find the button. He did not find the button in the woods, so he looked on the moon. All he could find was the American flag, but not the button. He did not find the button on the moon, so he looked in the ocean. Bear found an octopus. The octopus helped him for a little bit because Bear did not know how to swim. The bear didn't find the button in the ocean, so he went to look in the zoo. Bear asked the monkey, "Do you know where my button is?" The monkey did not answer. He was too busy doing cartwheels. The bear did not find the button in the zoo. He looked in New York. He saw the Statue of Liberty, but did not find the button. He did not find the button in New York, so he looked at the park. He looked everywhere. The last place he looked was by the slide. He found the button! Bear finally got to go back to his favorite place, his home. Magic Mountain by Ethan Reinersman. One day an explorer named Jim wanted to go to a magic mountain. He had heard about it when he was a kid. His dad had said it was real and to never climb it until he turned 20. Years later, Jim was finally 20. He found the mountain one day and started climbing. He was 3/4 away from the top. The wind picked up. The wind is picking up, Jim thought. The magic was causing the wind to blow even harder. It was getting harder and harder to climb. He was freezing in the wind, and he was worried he was getting frostbite, even though he didn't actually have frostbite. He was halfway up the mountain when he said, "Ah, what is that?" It looked like a snow monster who was getting closer to him. Jim said, "It looks like it's going to eat me for breakfast." He quickly looked at his watch and saw it was noon. "I meant for lunch." Jim was so scared he did not move for a while. It did not stop Jim from getting to the top, so he kept going. He found a cabin at the very top. He knocked on the door and saw that the door was unlocked. He went in and found someone putting wood in the fireplace. Jim found out that the man's name was Bob. Bob gave him some hot cocoa. He invited Jim to stay at his cabin for a couple of nights to rest. The end. Wimpy the Wombat by Hadley West. Wimpy says to his mom, "I want a hot dog or crickets." She replies, "Try sauerkraut." "No way," yelled Wimpy. Wimpy is so hungry. So he asks Squirrel, "Do you have any hot dogs?" "Nobody, nope, nope," said Squirrel. This is Wimpy, and he is a wombat. One day, Wimpy went to the hot dog stand. There were no hot dogs there. He wanted food. "I'll find food one day," said Wimpy. Wimpy went home. He went to the fridge. He looked inside of it and saw lots of sauerkraut. "Yuck!" screamed Wimpy. He ran out the door. Out of the house went Wimpy. Wimpy looked for Mrs. Hedgehog. Surely she would have a hot dog. "Hello," said Wimpy. "Yes," answered Mrs. Hedgehog. "Hello, do you have any hot dogs?" "N-O-P-E," said Mrs. Hedgehog. So Wimpy went home, but as he was going home, he saw a leaf. But no, it was Dingo. "Run!" yelled Wimpy. He ran as fast as he could, but soon Dingo was out of breath. Both Wimpy and Dingo were panting. "I'm so out of breath," said Dingo. After being chased by Dingo, he went home, but he smelled hot dogs. Wimpy ran out of his burrow. He ran up the hill and down to a mysterious cave. "What the what? Wimpy said to himself. So Wimpy went home. He asked what was for dinner. Mama said, "Sauerkraut." "Yuck!" cried Wimpy. His mom gave him the sauerkraut look. "Fine, I'll try it," said Wimpy. So Wimpy tried it. "Oh, yum, yum, yum!" cried Wimpy. "More, more, more!" he shouted. "Don't eat too much," said Mama. And he lived happily ever after. All Around the World by Lila Patterson. It was a rainy day. Emily was going downstairs when a book fell on her. On the cover were the faint words, "Explorer's Guide." She opened it to the first page and everything started to whirl around her. When she looked around again, she saw a big city. The chapter was titled Brazil. A boy came over to her and said, "Look over there at the Christ the Redeemer statue. It's so big. And this is Brigadeiro. Try it." He passed her the chocolate treat. It tasted so good and new. "Have you seen the Amazon rainforest? It has animals that you can only find here," he said. They walked into the Amazon rainforest and saw amazing things. As he left, the whirling started. This chapter was titled Japan. A girl waved to Emily. "Welcome to Mount Fuji," she said. Emily saw beautiful cherry tree blossoms everywhere. They had a picnic, and the girls shared her sushi lunch with Emily. Then everything started whirling again. Emily knew straight away that she was in Kenya. She was standing outside Mount Kenya National Park. She saw an elephant. A boy gave Emily something to eat that looked like a banana called matoke. It was so good that she bought more to eat as she toured the park. She took another step and the whirling started. The book fell on the ground and the chapter was Australia. "Watch out!" a lady yelled. But it was too late. Emily was surrounded by kangaroos. The lady told her she was at a wildlife sanctuary. She let Emily cradle a baby koala. Then the whirling started again. Now the chapter was titled Ireland. A friendly girl shared some Irish stew with her. It was her favorite food. She danced to the flute and fiddle too. The dances were so fun and she had a great time. Then there was more whirling and she was home. She went upstairs and had supper. After supper, she ran downstairs. There was so much more to explore all around the world. The Lunar Moon Park by Anna Cahoot. There was a bright, new morning in the Ring of Nebula in the constellation of Lyra. Neptune was a blue star that liked adventures. He and his friends, Flash, Rocket, and Starly, were shooting one day over the ring of nebula when they came upon a star yelling, "Extra, extra, read all about it. New roller coaster coming in Lyra City." "Wowza! We should go there," said Neptune. Flash, Rocket, and Starly agreed. They passed the Milky Way and through the galaxy, then arrived at Lyra City where the park was located. When they got to the ginormous park, they thought this place would be so fun, but when they got inside, it was all dark and moony. They didn't just go into any park, but the Lunar Moon Space Park. It was very dark. Rocket was scared, but Neptune got an idea. "Hey, Rock, we are stars. We can glow." So they got out of the entrance and saw all the fun rides. At the end of the day, they got to go on the huge roller coaster. They had so much fun, but the day had to end. They went back home to the Ring of Nebula. The end. The Cat Went to Space by Simrita Chiluri. Once upon a time, there was a white cat named Ginger with blue eyes and a big tail. She was very adventurous, loved challenges, and was curious about space. Every night she looked at the stars, moon, and dreamed about traveling to space. One day she went to the Space Museum and met rocket scientist Tom. Tom showed her all the rockets he built during the museum tour. Ginger got very excited seeing all the rockets and asked Tom to take her on a space adventure. Tom said, "Let's go when the rocket is ready in 2 weeks." Ginger was so excited about her space adventure. She started packing a bag with essentials, fish, milk, mice, etc., and eagerly waited for the launch day. Finally, the day came. Ginger went to the rocket station and wore a spacesuit. Tom and Ginger buckled their seatbelts and got ready for takeoff. Hooray! The countdown started. Wow! The rocket blasted into space. Ginger saw the Earth becoming smaller and smaller like a spinning lollipop. First, they landed on the moon. They jumped and hopped like rabbits. She loved going out because every time she took a step, she floated and jumped in the air. Ginger collected rocks and sand from the moon. Ginger asked Tom what the next stop was. Tom said, "Red Planet." Ginger jumped up and down with excitement. The rocket landed on Mars next. Ginger was sweating from the heat, so Tom gave her ice cubes to cool down. Ginger started purring. While they were collecting red sand, there was a sandstorm that burned them. Tom laughed because Ginger's body turned red from the sand. They toured different planets for the next 4 days and started to return to Earth. On the journey, Ginger saw Earth becoming bigger and bigger like a balloon until they landed at the rocket station. She thought the trip was amazing and wanted to go back. But first, she wanted to report about her trip, so she wrote a book all about it.
Generous support provided by the Betty Bryn Children's Museum and the Kiwanis Club of Milwaukee.